Welcome to Off 63rd. After the show, I'm Gerard McClendon, your host. We're talking about Chicago, from the beach to the burbs. And wow, my guest decided to stick around. I've got Kathy Cheney in the mix. I have Warner Todd Houston with us tonight, and also Ray Hanania in the mix. I love you guys' names. They're exciting to say.
I love his name.
Yeah,
yes,
we get to open up now. Well, let's go full throttle. We can say whatever we want now because this goes to the web, not necessarily to television. I want to shift again to another topic, Father Pfleger and the
You always
good
got to say
Cardinal.
the controversial Father Pfleger.
Yeah, there we go.
how we always
You got
like
to
it.
add
Yep,
some
all the
spice
time.
to it, right? Now, he's being asked to pretty much leave St. Sabina. The parishioners at St. Sabina are upset. We don't want Father Pfleger to leave. He needs to stay here. I think the Cardinal wants him to go to, is it Leo High School?
Right.
Okay.
Same neighborhood,
Yeah.
but still.
Yeah, right down the street. So, okay, I'm going to start with you, Kathy, and then I'm going to move to the two gentlemen here. Should Father Pfleger stay? Should he go?
He should stay.
But the Cardinal said move.
I understand that, there are rules. He should stay. He has done a lot of work for that community. His parishioners want to stay. Isn't that what's most important?
You would think.
They want him to stay. They want that continuity. Leave him alone.
Yeah. You know what? I am going to side with you. Gentlemen, what do you think, though, when it comes to Catholic order here and,
Well,
and
certainly,
how you move people around to kind of shake things up?
Exactly.
Yes, Warren.
And the Father's been a thorn in the side of the Catholic Church for many years. Let's
Yeah.
face it.
He's more Pentecostal than Catholic, isn't he?
And I'm no fan of his for sure. But I have to agree. You have to take into account his parishioners' desires. Seriously. I mean, whether I like him or not, at some level, it doesn't quite matter because I'm not a member of his
Why
church.
don't you like Father Pfleger?
Oh,
Come on, he
he's a
gets
nut.
the
with all
job
this,
done.
With all this gun store calling
Yeah,
people
passionate about it.
murderers,
Yeah.
he's definitely passionate.
I
that's
mean,
for sure.
you can't disagree with a guy who wants to get rid of rolling papers at gas stations and who wants to get rid of alcoholic billboard. Come on, Warner, help me out, man.
This is America too. I mean, if you want to drink, you should be able to drink. I mean, I don't want to have the Catholic standing over my shoulder telling me I can't drink.
Well,
He's the most down-home person. He really is.
He's a nice guy. Listen, I like him, and if the neighborhood likes him and his parishioners like him, he should stay. But this isn't about him, and this isn't about the parishioners. This is about a Catholic Church that has been checked and put in check by a guy who's more popular than the Cardinal. And he's really the Cardinal without the title. And they've been trying to figure out how to get rid of him for a long time. And they finally, I don't know why it took them 10 years, because they've been doing this for 10 years, but they finally figured, well, maybe we'll move him into another place. Once people accept the idea that we can move them, then we're going to take them out and send them to Indiana, or we're going to send them to Ohio.
Yeah.
So this is just
Exile.
first step towards getting them out so they can get this thorn out of their side.
Cardinal Francis George. Wow, it's interesting because when you see the two pictures on the 5, 6, and 10 o'clock news, it looks like they're fighting. They really aren't.
Listen, ask people who they can recognize. Show the two pictures, and everybody's going to say, I know Father Pfleger.
Yeah.
Who's the guy with the little red thing on his? Oh, that's the
Cardinal.
Cardinal.
Well, like I said, he definitely has been a thorn in the side of the church for many years. I mean, the Father holds several positions that the church is completely against, and I guess at some level you can't blame the church for wanting to control their own church. Right.
Right.
Why don't they let him do his job? And he's done a great job. I wish the rest of the church did as good of a job as he does, and maybe that's what the church, really doesn't like.
Because he's extremely involved in the community.
He is
very
and you know what? And this is a guy that, whether I agree with his politics or not, I don't always agree with him, and I'd have to really look hard to find something that I didn't like about him. But I know deep down there's something that I've disagreed with him. But I think that the guy is active. He has a passion for the area.
Yes, he does.
And, you don't see a lot of white, leaders in African-American communities that have the respect of the community, or reversed. You know, you don't see that, so there must be something right there that he can be where he's at.
Gentlemen,
and that's why I would weigh toward the parishioners. What they're designing. I mean, that has to be very important in this decision. Exactly. I don't know if it is or not.
You have to have that respect. Gentlemen and lady, I'm going to move to another topic. Let me take a phone call, though, from Pablo. Pablo, you're on off 63rd.
Hello.
Pablo, what's your comment? How you doing this evening?
Oh, it's good to hear you folks. It's very, very good. And I'm going to make a quick comment, and I have a little off-site question. My comment, if you don't mind, is touching on the Libya question. I'm so disappointed in our president. I followed him and voted for him and even took a picture of him. He won a Nobel Peace Prize. And then I read and hear that he's virtually declared war on the Libyan people under the pretext of protecting the civilians, while thereafter he drops bombs on the people and shoots multi-million-dollar rockets onto the people, and saying that they're protecting the civilians. Well, Americans are being hypocritical and very, very double standard in a way. If you remember back in our history during the civil rights and before then, the Civil War, the Americans killed their people. And if you remember J. Edgar Hoover, he was sure enough trying to kill his people. Remember Hampton and them and how they went in there and killed them?
Guns blazing.
It's much of a hypocrisy. And I wanted to direct a charge to Ray, because I respect him and know of him for many years. He seems to be reticent and reluctant to speak out against the way we abide by the Israelis, how they dropped all of these terrible phosphorus bombs and virtually nuclear weapons and tank rocket launchers and helicopter gunships on the poor Palestinian men, women,
Pablo.
and children. And the American people just looked the other way, and that
Pablo,
was all right.
Pablo, thanks for the call. I appreciate that. You know, he brings up a lot of items here that we have to deal with when we watch the news or read our daily newspapers. Palestinian, Jewish conflict has gone on for centuries. And he's pointing the question toward you, Ray.
Yeah, I don't mind answering it. I got in trouble with the Sun-Times back in the 90s for having very strong opinions about the Palestinians in the Middle East, and so I won't back down. I agree with him. I think that when the Israelis, and I'm not anti-Israeli, and it's sad that I have to preface every time I say this, but when the Israelis went into Gaza and did what they did, I didn't hear anybody saying we got to protect civilians. And I'm not saying the Israelis are the worst people in the world or that the Palestinians are the best people in the world, but when you really look at that conflict, it is about who we don't like and who we do like. We will tolerate tyranny and bad moves from people that are our allies. And we should be more principled about it. We should criticize the Israelis when they cross the line. That doesn't mean we have to be anti-Israeli. And we should criticize our allies in the Arab world when they cross the line too.
Right,
so we don't have to wait for that moment of drama.
That's what I was saying earlier about how I don't think we should be supporting dictators no matter if they are supporting our particular foreign policy or not. It's just not right.
Do want to clarify too that I think the sorties were from the United States that were sent to Libya weren't pointed at Libyan civilians as much as they were pointed at Libyan military.
Gaddafi's forces.
Right, Gaddafi's forces. So I do want to make that
But I think he
clear.
was trying to say that civilians have been killed in the attacks against Gaddafi.
But
and we can't go in there and say that we're trying to protect civilians when we cannot solidly guarantee 100% that we're not going to kill civilians ourselves.
Yeah.
We may say we don't intentionally try to kill them, but even that argument, I don't like that. I think that's more of a, we're better than you argument, and I don't think it's right to make that argument.
I'm going to switch up here. Our mayor-elect, Rahm Emanuel, wow. What a transit. He happens to be Jewish.
Yes, he is.
Rahm Emanuel, Jewish.
Not that came up in the campaign hardly at all.
Yeah, there we go. Right.
Nobody even mentioned it, really. It was only that one small incident.
And Rahm Emanuel ended up being the consensus black candidate.
Exactly, yes, he did.
All the black folks voted for Rahm Emanuel.
Indeed.
Should that have come up? What do you think? Let me go to Kathy. I'm going to come to you, Warner. Should it have come up? Rahm Emanuel's Jewishness.
No,
It
I
shouldn't
don't
have?
think it makes a difference at all. It shouldn't have.
But all of the other candidates' ethnicity would seem to be a prominent ideal throughout the city. So Rahm Emanuel just kind of played it cool and.
And
Well,
hey, he got in. I mean,
sure
and
did.
it, you know, it was the media. And yes, I'm with the media, but the media did all of that.
Okay, let's talk about. I'm sorry, Warner. Did you have a comment?
Well, I'm just saying that I agree. I don't care what anybody's ethnicity is when they're running for office. I want to know what their policies are going to be. But it was extremely interesting that the first time major Jewish candidate didn't have his Jewishness brought up. I mean, it was fascinating to me.
It was, and you know that's.
And a good sign, too.
It
I should
did
say.
come up, though, at one point.
I mean, that is almost
That one union
textbook
guy.
when it comes to American history, where your Jewishness doesn't matter. I mean, that's got to be,
Especially
it's
after
got to be
we
almost a
first, right?
first.
Especially after we were talking earlier about how the larger numbers of hate crimes are against American Jews. And again, that doesn't justify turning our backs against the hate crimes against Muslims, but I don't think him being Jewish really matters. I think what really matters is what did he do as an individual? And for example, he will not meet with or talk with American Arabs. He won't meet with us. We can't get interviews with him. They don't send us press releases to us. So to pretend like there isn't
interesting. I
a
did not know
tension
that.
between American Arabs in Chicago and Rahm Emanuel, who happens to be Jewish, whose father was a member of the Irgun, which was an organization that the British called a terrorist group. That to me is the bigger problem. I mean, you would think today we could talk about those issues, but we can't.
We can't.
And when you talk about it, people look at you and say, oh gosh, don't bring up the fact that he's Jewish. Don't talk about the Middle East. Ray, you're Arab, you're biased. You know, the fact that we can't have these open discussions really, I think, is more disconcerting than whatever his religion is.
Or are you proposing that the sins of the father there? I mean,
I think that, you know, there are issues that he needs to address. Now, personally, I supported him. And I supported him because I saw what he did with Barack Obama. He was part of Obama's effort to reach out to the Muslim and the Arab world, and I thought that was great. And if he was so anti-Arab the way they're trying to make him or portray him, I don't think Obama would have done that. Right. So there was a lot to like about him, but I think that either his camp or he fears talking to us that it might explode into an Arab-Israeli conflict, and I don't understand it.
Go
And
quick,
also, he didn't have a chance because the media was all wrapped up in his residency requirement.
That was
well,
that's a
did
good
take
point.
That did take up a lot of
That
time.
was the big
lot of time.
Yeah,
story.
it did.